Let's talk numbers. Burnout is costing businesses an estimated $322 billion a year. One recent report from Deloitte estimated that burnout costs the global economy $1 trillion a year. Let that sink in. We're not talking about a few tired employees. We're talking about $1 trillion business problem. And yet burnout is still treated like a personal issue, like it's about sleep or boundaries or breathing exercises. But here's the truth. In addition to being a personal wellness challenge, it's also a business problem. And here's why it should matter to leaders. First, let's get into where these numbers come from. Burnout affects an estimated 77% of the US population at some point in their career. That's nearly 8 out of every 10 of your employees, including a lot of your top performers and rising stars. And this is a big deal because we know from the research that burnout leads to a whole range of very costly consequences for our organizations. It's linked to lower productivity. It's linked to higher turnover and attrition costs for companies. It's linked to more sick days and absenteeism. And it's linked to low employee engagement, which the cool kids these days call quiet quitting. In short, it's a pretty big threat to business performance. And if you needed even more proof, the City University of New York, CUNY, which has done a ton of fantastic research into the topic, just released a study earlier this year looking even closer at what burnout tends to cost the typical company. So here's what they found. Burnout costs per employee tend to rise along the hierarchy. In other words, burnout costs companies about $4,000 a year for your typical hourly wage employee, about $10,800 a year for your manager level employees, and over $20,000 a year for each executive that you have. So if you calculate it all out, as they did, if you're running a company of, let's say, 1,000 employees, that equates to a loss of about $5 million a year in burnout alone. If you're a smaller business, let's say 100 people, you're looking at burning around $500,000 a year. And for large companies with over 10,000 employees, we're looking at over $50 million annually in what are fully preventable costs. For a little bit of context, this amount is 3 times what a typical company spends on health insurance and 17 times higher than what a typical company spends on learning and development. So if you're not thinking about burnout, you're missing a whole lot of risk. And if you think burnout isn't really an issue on your team, you may want to think again, because statistically, right now, 1 in 2 employees is experiencing burnout. Because burnout continues to be so heavily stigmatized, a lot of people carrying its symptoms hide them really, really well. It's not always about loud outbursts or breakdowns in the office. It can be a lot more subtle and a lot more silent, but equally costly. So if you're a leader today, understanding burnout and knowing how to manage it in yourself and in your teams is not optional. It's now part of the job. It means learning how to recognize early warning signs, again, in yourself and in your team. It means having a process to do regular check-ins and monitoring the state of stress and workloads across your teams. And it also means creating the environments where people are comfortable sharing when things aren't exactly perfect. And none of this is about being soft or doing therapy in the office. It's about being smart, strategic with your human capital, as they like to call us people. Because when burnout takes over, everything from innovation to retention to customer experience takes a hit. In my research and in my experience on the ground, I've seen burnout as such a big and pervasive obstacle for both leaders and companies that I've incorporated it as one full module in my P20 leadership development programs. Within that module, I make sure that leaders learn what burnout is, how to manage it, and how to regulate it within your organization. This is going to be a critical skill set for any leader in the post-2020 workplace, at least those who want to run successful teams and organizations. So leaders, if you don't know about burnout and you're not talking about it, it's time to start. If you're interested in learning more about burnout and how it affects individuals and companies, I've compiled a ton of free resources for you. I have a 3-part article series on LinkedIn on this very topic. I built an entire burnout guide and a resources library that has the best videos, articles, and book recommendations I have found and read myself. So whether you're just dipping your toes into burnout or you're ready to roll up your sleeves and set some strategies in your team, there's a resource here for you. It's time to face burnout head on.